Welcome to WatchMojo.com, and today we're taking a look at the life and career of Neil Young. Neil Percival Young was born on November 12, 1945 in Toronto, Ontario. It was in the 1960s that he began playing in bands like the Mina Birds and touring as a solo artist. He then formed the rock group Buffalo Springfield. Though the band was only together for about 2 years, it was one of the decade's most influential acts thanks to its folk and country rock sound. Its biggest hit was For What It's Worth.
There's something happening here. What it is ain't exactly clear.
Young released his self-titled solo debut to mixed reviews in 1968. The next year, he came out with Everybody Knows This Is Nowhere, and that album was recorded with backing band Crazy Horse. The album featured Young's distinctive guitar solos and the song Cinnamon Girl.
I wanna live with a cinnamon girl. I could be happy the rest of my life.
He had his first #1 effort on the pop albums chart as a member of the folk rock group Crosby, Stills, Nash & Young with 1970's Deja Vu. His solo commercial breakthrough followed later that year with After the Gold Rush. With its hard rock and folk-influenced acoustic tracks, the record is now considered one of his classic LPs and comprised the single Only Love Can Break Your Heart. 1972's Harvest was an even bigger hit and turned him into a star. The country rock record went to #1 on the charts and was the year's best-selling album. It included his first and only #1 single, Heart of Gold.
Keep me searching for a heart of gold, and I'm getting old.
His next 3 albums were known as the Ditch Trilogy, and they were commercial disappointments in comparison. However, the record Tonight's the Night from the trilogy later became known as a groundbreaking endeavor. In the latter half of the decade, Like a Hurricane was released, and it became one of Young's most well-known songs. He also returned to mainstream consciousness with the recognizable country and folk rock sound of the 1978 record Comes a Time. Young found even more success with 1979's Rust Never Sleeps, and that album was made up mostly of electric and acoustic tracks recorded during the preceding tour. Young experimented with different sounds and styles in the early 1980s. His album Trans featured synthesizers, while the record Everybody's Rockin' included rockabilly covers. He also had his first hit single during the latter half of the decade with This Note's for You.
Ain't singing for Pepsi, ain't singing for Coke, I don't sing for nobody. Makes me look like a joke. This note's for you.
However, 1988's reunion effort with Crosby, Stills and Nash, called American Dream, received negative reviews. His popularity returned with the critically and commercially successful effort Freedom. With its politically charged lyrics and a heavy use of distortion, the record anticipated the alternative rock explosion. It also spawned the #2 hit Rockin' in the Free World. This was followed by the release of the feedback-heavy album Ragged Glory and the live record Weld. The next year, he went back to country and folk rock with the well-received disc Harvest Moon.
Because I'm still in love with you, I wanna see you dance again.
And received an Oscar nomination for the song Philadelphia from the film soundtrack of the same name. The influence of grunge was heard on Young's 1994 effort Sleeps with Angels, and also on the top 5 record Mirrorball, which was an effort he worked on with Pearl Jam. Up next was the movie soundtrack for Dead Man, the album Broken Arrow with Crazy Horse, and the concert video and live compilation Year of the Horse.
She just slipped away.
years later, Young reunited with Crosby, Stills and Nash for the disc Looking Forward, and this was followed by one of the highest-grossing tours of 2000. During the next decade, several albums that Young released showcased his views on numerous issues. For instance, there was the politically minded Living with War and the environmentally conscious Greendale, Chrome Dreams 2, and Fork in the Road. The latter was notable for being inspired by Young's Link Volt, which was a 1959 Lincoln Continental that was transformed into a more fuel-efficient car. The decade was also significant for Young's health, as he was diagnosed with a brain aneurysm. Complications from its treatment later led to his collapse, and this incident inspired him to write about mortality on his Prairie Wind album.
It's a long road behind.
In 2009, Young played guitar on the disc Potato Hole by Booker T. Jones. The next year, he came out with Grammy-winning solo effort Le Noise.
It's an angry world for the businessman and the fisherman.
This was followed by another installment in his series of archival releases, the live compilation A Treasure in 2011. Thanks to his country folk rock and continual perseverance, Neil Young has become one of the world's most influential and prominent singer-songwriters.